At the age of 35, I believed I had everything figured out. My name is Gina Mitchell. My husband Mark and our 7-year-old daughter Emma were part of my happy family. I had a comfortable apartment that I had purchased before getting married, and I had a decent career as a project manager at a software firm. Mark would lean against the doorframe of our home office and say, "Gina, you're obsessing over those spreadsheets again." His black hair still a little untidy as usual. "Come on, let's order takeout and watch a movie with Emma." I would glance up from my laptop, where I had been figuring out how to get closer to our goals by calculating our monthly savings. Just 5 more minutes is what I would assume. If we cut back on eating out, we could put away an extra $300 this month. Mark would roll his eyes. "Do you know what Sarah and Tom did over the weekend? They spontaneously decided to take their children to Disney World since they felt like it. We are here in the meanwhile, collecting pennies for a future that may never materialize." Sarah's family owns half of the town's real estate, and Tom's parents are wealthy. I would tell him we must manage our finances wisely. Wouldn't it be lovely to have a home with a backyard where Emma could play, and we could have cookouts when Emma attends a reputable college someday? As time passed, these discussions increased in frequency. Mark would tell me about John and Maria's new home or Dave and Lisa's vacation to Europe. But I would respond that John and Maria had no funds and lived in a small rented flat, while Dave and Lisa were drowning in credit card debt. With her boundless 7-year-old enthusiasm, Emma would frequently interrupt these conversations. "Can you assist me with my scientific assignment, Mommy? We are constructing a solar system." My favorite times were when I helped Emma with her homework and saw how her mind worked to solve problems. She was incredibly intelligent and inquisitive about everything. It simply made me more determined to ensure her future. I would answer, "Of course, sweetie," and shut off my laptop. Let's make the best solar system your class has ever seen. In hindsight, I should have recognized Mark's adjustments earlier. The fishing excursions with pals that appeared to expand, the late evenings at work that started to become more common, and the trips to his parents in the adjacent state that strangely never coincided with my phone conversations with his mother. But I had total faith in him. Why wouldn't I? After 8 years of marriage, we had created a life together and had our lovely Emma. I didn't even wonder whether or not to trust. It came naturally, just like breathing. My world collapsed on a calm Sunday afternoon. The doorbell rang as I was assisting Emma with her arithmetic assignment. I opened the door and saw Linda and Robert, Mark's parents, standing there holding gift bags. "Grandma, Grandpa." Emma shrieked and rushed to give them a hug. I knew right away that something was wrong. Robert was unable to make eye contact with me since Linda's eyes were crimson. Linda got hold of my hands after Emma had taken her presents to her room. She added, "Gina, sweetheart, we need to talk," in a shaky voice. "Please sit down." My gut constricted as we made our way to the kitchen. Linda inhaled deeply before continuing. She started by saying, "Mark came to visit us last weekend." I answered, yes, he mentioned that, recalling his informal declaration that he would be going to see his parents. Linda went on, "He wasn't alone." Robert said Mark brought a woman with him, in a stern tone. He declared her to be his bride. The word struck me like a punch to the body. His what? Linda told me we threw them both out, while holding my hand tightly. We were shocked that he would harm you and Emma in this way. Honey, we had to tell you. You must understand the type of guy our kid has grown into. I sat there, unable to form words as my thoughts raced. "Thank you" was all I could manage. "Thank you for telling me." I walked about the house like a ghost after they departed, straightening things that didn't need to be straightened, and making sure Emma was contentedly playing with her new toys. I was waiting that night when Mark came through the door. I said, "We need to talk," in a fairly calm voice. "Your parents came by today." He froze, and I realized then that everything was real. He lost the color in his face. "How long have you been seeing her?" My voice broke a little. Mark sank onto a seat. "A few months," the man acknowledged. "Look, I'm worn out, Gina. I'm fed up with saving all the time and never experiencing the present. I'd like something different." The divorce process proceeded swiftly. Since I owned the flat before the marriage, I kept it, and Mark agreed to give me a little amount of alimony. Thankfully, I had insisted on maintaining a healthy balance in our savings account. It allowed me time to adjust to our new normal. Emma and my job were the two things I put myself into. I stormed into my boss's office and hired Sarah, a lovely college student, to watch Emma after school, telling him I want the challenging projects, the person who no one else desires to touch. I'll ensure their success. He gave me a chance despite raising an eyebrow. I put forth more effort than ever before, arriving early, remaining late after Sarah dropped Emma off at home, and taking on the tasks that everyone else shied away from. I completed 3 seemingly insurmountable projects in a few of months. After the incentives began to arrive, there was a promotion. I held the keys to my new home as I stood in front of it 5 years after the divorce. A gorgeous 2-story house with a large backyard where I could finally throw the barbecues I'd always wanted was everything I could have ever imagined. As she went from room to room, Emma, age 12, claimed the biggest bedroom upstairs as her own. I made a couple attempts at dating over those years. There was Michael, a kind accountant I met at a seminar, and James from work invited me out for coffee. However, nothing felt quite right. It was difficult for me to allow anyone to get too close after Mark's treachery. In addition, I had everything I required, including my work, our ideal home, and my kid. Some people believed that after a divorce, in-laws would go from our life, yet Linda and Robert were a constant. But to me, they were family, not just in-laws. During the holidays, they lavished Emma with affectionate presents and hosted her for weekends at their home. I never protested. Emma adored them, and they truly loved her. The years passed quickly, and Emma was graduating from high school before I realized it. Her ideal school, Berkeley, accepted her, and I was able to send her there because of my diligent work and thorough preparation. She phoned nearly every day throughout the first couple months of college. "Mom, my roommate is amazing, and Mom, you won't believe what happened in psychology class today." Eventually, the calls decreased in frequency from weekly to bi-weekly to whenever she needed something, but I still loved those calls. "Everyone here has the latest iPhone, Mom." "Mine appears old," she remarked. "Mom, there's this amazing designer bag on sale." "Mom, my friends are all going to Cancun for spring break." "Honey, I did my best to be reasonable. These items are pricey." I worked at the university bookstore during my undergraduate years in order to supplement my income and purchase items I desired. It felt like a slap when the person on the other end of the phone snorted in mockery. "Keep your when I was your age anecdotes to yourself, Mom. I am aware of your current high income. They are not as wealthy as we are, and Jessica's mother got her a vehicle for her birthday. She no longer spent Thanksgiving and Christmas at home. Instead, she always had arrangements with pals." Concerned about not seeing their grandchild, Linda and Robert would phone me. I'd tell them, "She's just busy," hoping to persuade myself as much as they did. In reality, though, I was really missing my little baby. Without her vitality, the home felt too large and too silent. She only appeared to reach out when she was in need of something. My heart would rise whenever my phone rang and I saw her name, only to fall when I discovered it was just another money request. The years flew by. Emma obtained a job at a prominent marketing company in San Francisco after graduating from Berkeley with honors. I was thrilled to see her cross the stage in her gown and cap, even if we were still not as close as we once were. My heart skipped a beat when the call finally arrived. Emma said, "Mom," with the same enthusiasm I had heard in her early years. "This weekend, I'm returning home. I want you to meet this person." For the following 3 days, I tried to relax, made Emma's favorite meals, and thoroughly cleaned the house. On Saturday night, I virtually sprinted to answer the doorbell when it rang. Emma stood there looking stunning in a high-end gown with her hair groomed to perfection. A tall and attractive man wearing a high-end suit stood next to her. She added, "Mom, this is Bradley Thompson," with a smile. "My fanfa. Please call me Brad," he responded, smiling warmly and holding out his hand. "Emma's told me so much about you, Mrs. Mitchell." Emma kept shifting her left hand to catch the light as we sat down in the living room, and I couldn't help but notice. She had a huge diamond on her finger. Thompson Industries is owned by Brad's family, Emma declared with pride. "The ring is from Cartier." "Sincerely, it's beautiful," I said. "I'm so happy for you both." Emma's grin abruptly became calculated. "Speaking of the engagement, Mom, we need to discuss the party." I nodded and reached for my cup. "Of course," I said. Emma went on, "We would like to host it at the Ritz-Carlton, with around 200 people in attendance. It will come to about $50,000 in total." I almost suffocated on my tea. 50,000. "Yes," Emma said stoically. "We need you to cover it." I cautiously put down my cup. "Honey, that's a huge quantity. I don't believe." "Are you serious right now?" Emma raised her voice abruptly. "After all these years of saving and saving, you can't even spend money on your only daughter's engagement." "Emma," Brad gave her arm a little pat. "Maybe we should." "No," she snapped out of his grasp. "Are you aware of the experience of growing up with her? Constantly talking about saving for the future and constantly counting pennies. Okay, Mom, this is my future. You were purportedly saving for this." "Emma, please," I said, trying not to become too upset. "I'd be glad to help, but $50,000 for the engagement party alone. You're amazing." With tears running down her cheeks, she leaped to her feet. "You're just a greedy, miserable woman who cares more about her bank account than her own daughter's happiness." Brad got to his feet, obviously embarrassed. "That's enough," Emma said, but she was already rushing to the door. "I can't believe I thought you changed." The door slammed behind her with such force that the pictures rattled on the walls. Brad apologized and followed her out. I sat there long after they left, staring at the half-empty teacups and wondering how my little girl, who once got excited over making a solar system out of styrofoam balls, had turned into someone I barely recognized. My phone rang around 9 that evening. Linda's name flashed on the screen, and something in my gut tightened. Emma was just here. Linda's voice was strained. "She said you refused to help with the engagement party." She was quite upset. "Did she tell you how much she asked for?" I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. $50,000. Robert's voice came through. I was on speaker. "Well, we need to tell you something, Gina. We gave her $25,000. My stomach dropped. "You what?" "We didn't know what to do." Linda's voice cracked. She was crying. She was saying her own mother didn't love her enough to help with her engagement. "We took it from our retirement savings." I felt sick. "Linda, Robert, you shouldn't have." "We know." Robert sounded tired, "but she's our only grandchild, and we thought Well, we thought it would help. After hanging up, I sat in my dark kitchen for hours. The thought of Linda and Robert dipping into their retirement savings made my chest hurt. They weren't wealthy people. They'd worked hard all their lives, just like me. 3 days later, after countless sleepless nights, I transferred $25,000 to Emma's account. Within an hour, my phone pinged with a text. Engagement party next Saturday at the Ritz-Carlton. 7:00 p.m. formal attire required. No thank you, no acknowledgement of the money, just an invitation. The Ritz-Carlton was transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, white roses covered every surface, and champagne flowed endlessly. Emma was radiant in a designer gown that probably cost more than my first car. Isn't it magnificent? She kept saying to anyone who would listen, just wait until you see the wedding. It's going to be 10 times more spectacular. I stood in a corner, feeling out of place despite my carefully chosen dress. Linda and Robert found me there, both looking elegant but uncomfortable. I watched Emma, holding court among her friends, all of them draped in designer clothes and dripping with jewelry. She was showing off her ring to a new group of admirers, her laugh carrying across the room. The wedding will be the event of the season, I overheard her telling her friends. We're sparing no expense. It's going to be absolutely perfect. My eyes met Robert's across the room. We shared a look of growing anxiety. We both knew what was coming. This lavish engagement party wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I sipped my champagne slowly, watching my daughter shine in her element, surrounded by wealth and luxury. She looked happy, but there was something else in her expression. A hardness that hadn't been there when she was younger, when she would get excited about simple things like backyard barbecues and science projects. 2 weeks after the engagement party, my phone rang. Emma's name flashed on the screen, and I felt an inexplicable sense of dread. Mom, she didn't even bother with a hello. We need to discuss the wedding budget. I need you to give me $120,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. I'm sorry, what? $120,000, she repeated slowly as if I were a child. The dress alone is $30,000. It's being custom made by a designer in Paris. Then there's the venue, the flowers, the band. Emma, I cut her off, trying to keep my voice steady. That's absolutely out of the question. It's an astronomical amount for a wedding. God, Mom, why do you have to be so cheap? Brett's family expects a certain level of... I'm willing to give you $10,000 for the wedding expenses, I interrupted, and another $5,000 as a wedding gift. That's already very generous. There was a moment of deadly silence on the line. $120,000 is my final offer. Emma's voice turned cold. If you don't give it to me, don't bother coming to the wedding. I mean it. Something snapped inside me. Are you actually trying to blackmail me, your own mother? Oh, here we go, she said with a sour laugh. A miserable single mother who gave up all for her unappreciative daughter. I'm so sick of that narrative, do you know? Over the years, all you've done is save money. If not for this, why were you preserving it? I saved it for emergencies, for your education, for our future security. Now my voice was trembling. After your father departed, I reared you by myself. Within reason, I never refused you anything. She said, well, this is what I want now. And I'll make sure everyone knows what a terrible, avaricious mother you are if you don't give it to me. How your financial account was more important to you than the pleasure of your only daughter. Emma, please. Don't worry, though, she said in a poisonous tone. I'll just ask my grandparents. In any case, those ancient fossils have one foot in the grave. For what purpose do they require their savings? Have fun with your valuable funds. Don't anticipate receiving a wedding invitation." The line died. I felt as though I was seeing the last scene of a tragedy that I had somehow contributed to writing while I sat in my kitchen, the phone still in my hand. Where had I gone wrong after all those years of meticulous saving, of attempting to provide Emma with all she needed while teaching her the importance of money? Like a wave, the reality struck me. I had somehow raised a girl who believed she deserved everything by making sure she never went without. I had unintentionally produced someone who viewed everyone, including her own family, as nothing more than ATMs for her wishes by shielding her from adversity. Early the next morning, my phone rang. Before I even greeted her, Linda was in tears. "Gina," she said. "She came to us last night." Linda's voice wavered. "She wants the wedding to cost $120,000. She claims that you turned her down." In the background, I heard Robert. "Gina, it's all of our retirement funds. All of our possessions." I said, "Listen to me very carefully," in a stern voice. "Avoid giving her that sum of money. Come over tonight, please. Something is important for you to hear." In a whisper, Linda said, "But she's our granddaughter. Maybe we could take out a second mortgage." I insisted on saying tonight. "Please trust me on this." They were weary and distressed when they arrived at around 7. With trembling hands, I took out my phone and placed them down in my living room. "I need to show you something," I said. "It's going to be painful, but you need to hear this before you make any decisions." I hit play on the tape of our talk from yesterday. The sound of Emma's voice filled the room, and Linda and Robert sat still. In any case, those ancient fossils have one foot in the grave. For what purpose do they require their savings? Linda quickly put her palm to her lips. Robert's face became pale. I murmured quietly, "There's more," and let the tape go on. Emma's heartless calculations and callous rejection of those who had loved her without conditions from the day of her birth. When it was over, they were both in tears. Robert gazed straight ahead with tears streaming down his grizzled cheeks, while Linda's shoulders trembled with silent cries. I said, "I'm so sorry," as tears welled up in my own eyes. "If I told you, I knew you wouldn't believe me. You have to listen to it for yourself." All these years, Linda said, holding back her tears, we did everything we could for her. Our final cent would have been donated to her. Robert's tone sounded empty. But to hear her talk about us like that. I took their hands in mine as I sat down on the couch between them. I understand how painful it is, but I couldn't allow her to exploit you in this way. You're worthy of better. Linda gave another call 3 days later. She returned with a more powerful voice. We told her no. I inquired, how did she take it? Robert said, she screamed at us as he entered the queue. Said we were dead to her, called us old fools, and threatened to ensure we never saw her again. We are no longer invited to the wedding, she said. With a catchy voice, Linda said, our own granddaughter. I murmured, I'm so sorry, as I realized how much their suffering had affected me. You made the correct decision. She must realize that this is not how she should treat others. I hung up and then watched the sunset in my yard. The evening air was filled with the delightful aroma of the roses that I had planted when we first moved home. Emma's wedding was always going to happen in this backyard, in my opinion. Rather, we were all waiting to see what would happen next while sitting in separate homes, tending to wounded hearts and dashed hopes. I was ready to go off social media one evening when Brad's mother, Catherine Thompson, sent me a message. It said, Dear Mrs. Mitchell, I hope this message finds you in good health. I had to talk to someone about the arrangements for Emma and Bradley's wedding. As I opened it, my heart skipped a beat. Emma has come to us asking for a sizable donation, $120,000 to be precise. Even when we are lucky enough to be comfortable, we are bothered by the quantity and the way that we are being asked. I am aware that she has made similar demands on you. I took a long look at the screen before answering. The affluent in-laws had been Emma's last card. Mrs. Thompson, I responded, I believe you deserve complete honesty. I described everything, including the drama surrounding the engagement party, the threats, and the effort to take advantage of her grandparents' retirement funds. I kept typing even though my fingers paused over the keyboard many times. It was important for this woman to understand what she would be facing for years to come. Thank you for your candor, Mrs. Mitchell, was her prompt reply. I absolutely agree with your stance and understand it. Despite our love and want for Bradley's happiness, we also think that a wedding should be about family and love, rather than ostentatious shows of money. Emma's plea will also be turned down. A week later, Linda sent me a quick text. This morning, Emma and Brad were married at City Hall. No visitors. She didn't even make any internet posts. As I sat in my yard, I imagined my daughter having a modest courthouse ceremony without a fancy dress, pricey flowers, or hundreds of adoring visitors. I felt guilty in part. Isn't it the responsibility of every mother to provide her daughter with the wedding of her dreams? Then I recalled Emma's nasty remarks about her grandparents, her efforts at emotional blackmail, and her readiness to ruin the lives of those closest to her in order to enjoy a lavish day of self-promotion. No, her enjoyment wasn't being denied. This has to do with something far more significant. Sometimes, with their voices still laden with pain, Linda and Robert call. Through this experience, we have become closer, finding solace in our mutual suffering and comprehension. We occasionally sit in my lawn and gaze over the area where Emma's wedding would have taken place, while reminiscing about the little child who once brightened our days with her smile. One day, I hope, my phone will ring and Emma will be there, ready to talk about what occurred, without requesting money. I'm hoping that by beginning her married life, without the extravagant extravagance she insisted on, she will come to see what truly counts. In the meantime, I work at my job, take care of my garden, and leave my door open in case the way to reconciliation is waiting to be discovered. But she must take the initial move. I've discovered that knowing when to maintain your ground, even when it hurts, can be the most difficult aspect of loving someone. Perhaps we'll get together for that backyard cookout once again. In the meanwhile, I wait, hope, and think about the daughter I reared, and I pray that she will eventually return home.